Hello, my greenskins. I was going to do something about werewolves and, werewolf month. This was going to be that. But unfortunately, Tromaville called. And when Tromaville calls, you have to answer. Toxic Avenger. Yes, we are getting a remake of the original movie done by a big corporation, which scares the fuck out of me. But it's coming. So, before Peter Dinklage dons the mutation, I still can't believe it's Peter Dinklage. Uh, we're going to be starting with a hit back to the classic series, the Toxic Avenger Part 1. And we're going to do Part 2 and 3. So here we go. So a little backstory of Toxic Avenger and me. I really didn't have Toxic Avenger. It was something I never really saw because where my mom and pop shops were, they weren't exactly great. But they did have a lot of anime. Like, it was shocking how much anime I got to see when I was a kid. Just from people I knew and people I met. So we had a good anime collection, but we never really had a great horror collection. I was never into horror. It actually stemmed from a man and a good friend of mine that I met at a Blockbuster. And it was funny because he worked at the Blockbuster, and I'm like, what's this Toxic Avenger? And guy's like, well, I like he kind of explains it's a horror movie. So he actually put it in the big TV, so we got to watch it on all three TVs, and sat there and watched Toxic Avenger Part 1. Should have got him in a lot of trouble. And he was giving us free soda and drinks and stuff while we were watching the Toxic Avenger with him. So it became a little tradition to go to the Blockbuster, hang out with this guy when he was working, and watch horror movies. So that's how I got into the Toxic Avenger. And that's kind of how I learned to love it. And it's actually one of my closest friends for years after the fact is because of that. It's kind of amusing that that's how that all kind of broke out. And it's kind of funny that that's, the end result from this. So let's break it down. Well, we're going to start with our cast. And our cast is Mitch Cohen as the Toxic Avenger, mutated. Mark Togai, which I don't know if I said that right, as Melvin Junko. That's his actual name. And then you got yourself, Andrea Marita as Sarah, Cindy Mannon as Julie, Jennifer Picard as Wanda, Gary Sunderland as Bozo. Oh god, Bozo's a big one. And the names just kind of go off. Like, these are guys who they have kind of... Some of them had a better career after this fact, but most of them didn't. And there's a valid reason why. It's mainly because of the acting. So let's break down the acting to Toxic Avenger. Acting to Toxic Avenger is, well, over the top, doesn't even sell it. We are super over the top. Everyone in here is very cartoony. And that kind of works in the series. And that's the thing about it. This works really well. From one of my favorite scenes is, if he can't, they end up, the guy ends up falling out of a freaking 2-story window at the beginning of the movie, and he kind of falls in there, gets covered in liquid and stuff, and it gets covered in mutation, and Bozo, his response is, if he can't take a joke. It's like, Jesus fuck. He fell from a 2-story window into and is slowly being violently mutated. And That's kind of the acting here. The acting is extreme and over the top. And it's kind of amusing because they use a lot of this is, at least the version I saw. I don't know if there's multiple versions. I've been kind of told that there are, but I am not sure how much of that is true. But the version I watched had very, like, it had, like, very scripted acting. It's just kind of fun. It is done good as a comedy. For something that's considered a horror, this is a edgy, dark comedy. This shouldn't be considered horror, to be honest. And so let's break down the story as we move on to the next part. I can't believe how easy this is to talk about. The story of Toxic Avenger Part 1. How to put it? It's really simplistic. You have Melvin Junko, a geek, loser kid, like young man. As kid would be kind of a little pushing it. He's a young man who works at a health center as a janitor. He gets caught up with this gang of murderers. And these murderers are, like, best way to put it is they have the two guys, Bozo and I can't remember his buddy, and the other guy who is who drive a car and they run people over. Like, that's their hard on, is killing people by running them over and murdering them. And they get like they've dictated points and stuff. And the two girls really get off watching these two guys kill people violently. They get pissed off of them. They're complete assholes. That's how they portray them in the movie. So Melvin gets hit with a practical joke, freaks out, and runs off into basically out a fucking window, falls into a vat of acid, and that's when the mutation starts. And once the mutation starts, the mutation kicks off the main bit of him becoming Toxic Avenger. And Toxic Avenger ends up having this sad little thing where, he gets mutated, which cuts, then he basically gets revenge. And so he has a uncontrollable urge to murder people who are evil. Anybody who's evil, he has to kill them. And he has to kill them in inventive ways, and usually has a catchphrase, which is obviously doctored, because all you hear 90% of the time from him is rah, 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 rah. That's the thing to this. And yeah, if it wasn't for two guys needing to get their nose candy out and take a trip on the nose candy express, I really, this is going to be one hell of a thing. I'm going to get so copyright claimed for that. I got to keep it as PG as humanly possible. It's hard to do with Toxic Avenger, at least part 1. Part 2, you could get away with some stuff. And that's how this goes. Toxie wants revenge, and he meets his girlfriend, which is a blind woman. And yeah, the mutant meets a girl, kills all the bad guys, and Tromaville is saved by Toxic Avenger. Pretty simplistic story, but when we get to the scene work and other stuff, that's when it gets interesting. That's when it gets fun. That's when we have our Toxic Avenger stuff. So I've talked to a couple people about the Toxic Avenger, and I've come to one conclusion. There's no way I can show this fucking movie. I'm gonna talk about the scene work, but there's no way I could show anything from it. At least from I've been told, it really does have a problem where people are... It just seems YouTube don't like it very much from what I've been told. So I'm going to have to not show much here. I'm just going to have to describe it. I apologize for the inconvenience. Just the way things are. If it changes, I'm damn well going to shift it back. But from what I've been told, don't risk it. So I won't risk it. Toxic Avenger has some of the most gory special effects for the time. And for the fucking budget, by the way. This movie was on a shoestring budget. It's kind of surprising how many horror movies that are like super gory that have very small budgets. And Toxic is very, like, the name suits it actually, the Toxic Avenger. The more I think about it, because of how gory and gushy and nasty it is, you have, like, the beginning thing is a little kid getting hit by a car, and then they run the kid's head over. And you actually see, like they have the head, they don't explode the head, but they have, like, the guts and the face, and it's nasty. Like, it's clear it's not real, but it's nasty. And the gore is over the top in this one. If you add this over-the-top acting, extreme gore, like him turning a guy into a shake, him frying a guy's hands until he pretty much dies, and him putting a guy he just ripped the arm off into a pizza oven to cook him. Yeah, this is gory as fuck. And, like, it ends with him gushing, punching out a guy and pulling out his liver. Well, pulling out a cow's liver. You can actually tell it's a cow's liver, but that's neither here nor there. It's a super gory movie. Super over the top. And it has some... And the funny thing is, it has a lot of subtitle. And like I said, Toxie doesn't talk that often. When he does talk, it's clear that it's dubbed over. So it's kind of this over-the-top extreme. It's an extreme fucking movie. And yeah, it's the best way to put it. It's a super extreme, super gory, over-the-top movie. That really, I think, if you're into gore, it's perfect for you. So we'll go to the rating next. What am I going to rate Toxic Avenger? Well, from my opinion on rating stuff, it's about, from a horror perspective, it is a 5.9. It's a dark comedy with a good horror twist. It's not exactly over the top. And they get more extreme as time goes on. Some of it shifts a little bit from 2 to 3, but I'll be honest, the second Toxic Avenger is super gory, and at the same time, it's not. It's an interesting, from 2 to 3. It's a weird movie, and it really did give trauma a mark on society, and that's why I liked it. You know, it really did do something big. And yeah, that's the best way to put it. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me rant about the Toxic Avenger. And stick around for spooky days when I do Toxic Avenger Part 2. Have a good day.